Well, we have some new reporting coming into the CNN newsroom tonight about Jack Smith, the special counsel investigating former President Donald Trump, and a pair of criminal probes. I want to bring in Caitlin Polantz. She is CNN's senior crime and justice reporter. She joins us with the latest. So, Caitlin, based on your reporting, Smith's team is moving quickly, and we saw a glimpse of that with these subpoenas that we know were issued to officials in Wisconsin and Arizona and Michigan. But you have reporting on how quickly his team is moving, and when could we see actual charges?
Well, Pam, that's going to be the question every day going forward. When can we see charges? We don't know exactly when that will happen. But one of the things that we were trying to understand is, what does this actually look like now that there is a special counsel over these two ongoing criminal investigations, January 6th and Mar-a-Lago? And a team of us tried to dig into that to get a better understanding of the shape of these investigations and this office. So Kristen Holmes, Paula Reed, Jeremy Herb, and I, a few others around our justice team, we all really dug into it, and we learned a few things. One, this seems like it could almost be obvious, but one of the things that the team of people who are prosecuting especially January 6 cases are asking about is intent of Donald Trump, the knowledge Donald Trump had around and leading up to January 6th. So I say that seems obvious. We've seen people from the White House counsel's office, from the office of the vice presidency, going in and being forced to give more answers to a federal grand jury. But that's not always an obvious thing that they would be asking about. We know that they're looking at a lot of different things, not just Trump, but that is one thing that we heard and found. Another thing that we learned is that there's always been a hint of the question of finances. There's people who have expertise in public corruption, fraud, money laundering, who have started working in this special counsel's office. But we do understand there is a pretty sizable financial investigation that continues on as well.
That's really interesting. We covered the special counsel, the Mueller investigation together. We were on that team. And there is a difference here with that investigation and this one, the key one being Donald Trump is no longer a sitting president, right? How does that change the equation?
Well, Pam, the first thing was that the Mueller prosecutors, they basically knew from the beginning, it wasn't clear to the public, but they knew that they weren't going to be able to charge the sitting president, especially with obstruction of justice. That's not the case here. Now, our understanding was even when, before the special counsel came in to investigate around January 6th, some of those prosecutors were given the ability to take an investigation up to Trump if they needed to. So this special counsel is starting a little bit at a different place than Mueller was. And also with that, our understanding of this special counsel, Jack Smith, is that he's going to function more like a career manager, a U.S. attorney, not setting up a shadow Justice Department that could be at odds with the Justice Department, as happened a little bit during the Mueller investigation. But the other thing, Pam, that's really fascinating about this is already a bigger group of investigators, almost twice the size, or even more when you combine both of these investigations than what Mueller had to work with.
And is he still, because I know he was recovering from knee surgery, is he still overseas or is he now in the U.S.? Do we know?
He's still overseas.
Okay.
We're waiting. And so they should be setting up an office. But the prosecutors, as far as we know, there are many, many of them, and they continue on every day.
All right, Caitlin Polantz, great reporting. Thanks so much. Also tonight, sources tell me and other CNN reporters, Zach Cohen and Annie Grayer, that the House Select Committee investigating January 6th has ended its meeting where members discussed criminal referrals. And one source I spoke with tonight just before the show said it was a successful meeting, implying that progress was made, but didn't elaborate. The subcommittee focused on those referrals, presented its recommendations to the full panel. And also another source telling my colleague Jamie Gangel that the committee has agreed on a path forward on referrals. Last hour, I spoke with CNN senior legal analyst Elie Honig about what it all means.
Well, Pam, first of all, the committee obviously is in the process of deciding what they're going to do. They've said different things in the past. They've said they intend to. They said today's meeting was successful, so we'll see what they do. But what's important to understand about a criminal referral from Congress or anybody else is that legally it has no specific impact. It's not binding on DOJ. They don't have to investigate because Congress or anybody else asks them to, and they don't need to be asked in order to investigate. They can do it on their own. We know DOJ is already investigating Donald Trump. But of course, this is an important way that the committee is going to have to think about how they want to end their presentation of evidence to us. And do they want to sort of use a criminal referral as a capstone to all the findings and all the hearings that we've seen?